a little story. Oh, I'm hearing myself. Today I'm here to tell you a little story about a retail company selling shoes and how they went from using mystery shoppers to using every shopper for feedback and analysis. But first things first, a little bit about me. So I'm Bo. I have 8 years of experience in data and AI. I have, together with some colleagues, a company named Plainsight. We are all experts based on data and AI. Besides that, yeah, I'm a public speaker because I'm here. But besides that, I'm also a community builder because I love to share knowledge. I love to build communities. I'm in several data communities and AI communities. So that's a little bit about me. But let's quickly dive into the story itself. So, as I mentioned, it's about a retail company. I cannot name it, but probably you will know it. It's a Belgian retail company selling shoes. And they tried to be more customer-centric by using the feedback that customers left them rather than using mystery shoppers. That's it in a nutshell. So what happened? Every year, twice a year, there were like 3 weeks where every shop owner was like super stressed and they knew that at some point in time a mystery shopper would come by. What is a mystery shopper? It's like a person that the head office or the main office sent to the individual shops to get some feedback about the shop owner, how they, what is the service, how is everything looking, etc. So the mystery shopper looks like a regular customer, buys some shoes and then leaves and gives the management like a big report stating, I saw this and this was not good and this was good, etc., etc. So you can see a little bit what the issue here is. It's one person's view, so it's not super objective. Also, it's one moment in time, and as mentioned, the shop owners, yeah, everyone talks, so they knew that someone was coming with as a consequence that in front of the shop, the carpet, it was like done twice a day, but in the back of the stock, yeah, it was one big mess. Shippings were not shipped. The stock was all over the place. So it actually had a contra effect than what the main office actually wanted. But the solution was right around the corner because every year, it's around 600,000 reviews were sent out to the customers, so emails after a sale, and asking them, can you give me just a little block of written text, some feedback? So they gathered all this feedback, but they did nothing with it, because yeah, it's written text, sometimes it's in Dutch, sometimes it's in English, sometimes it's in a language that no one really understands. So with all these reviews, they were just sitting there within their data platform, gathering some dust, doing nothing at all. On the other hand, if one human had to read through 70,000 reviews, it's a bit much, and again, it will not give you an objective way or a quantifiable result. But luckily, today we have large language models, and they can read through 70,000 reviews within seconds. So we use large language model to classify these reviews within several defined categories and made sure that the results were quantifiable, objective, and that we could take decision based on that. Now there's like the boring part of my presentation. I will already mention it to you. I'm quickly giving you like the top layer of the tech behind, but I won't go too much into detail to not lose you all on a Friday afternoon. But so basically what we did, we have written text, a review, stating, for instance, I bought some shoes, I love the shoes, but the service was crap. I didn't like the service in the shop. That review, how would we make it into something analytical? We use embeddings. And embeddings, it's like a vector. I will lose everyone right now because vectors, it's something from in high school mathematics. But what it is, it's actually just a location of your text. So if I'm saying, I love the shoes, love will be next to or close by, beautiful, nice, etc. So it's really, you can see it like a location somewhere in space where we can give it like a number, a vector, and every word that is close to this vector is in the same area and means kind of the same thing. This is really a simplified example, but you can easily see that, yeah, all the reviews that are positive on a product or service will be gathered together within the same cloud, to say it like that. We defined 3 categories: price, product, and service, and then a leftover other category. And thus, using these vectors, using these embeddings, we try to make, based on these categories, a score, and we generalized it into a score to make sure that we could approach it in an analytical way and see like, this shop scores very well based on the service they are providing. And in the end, we had 2 major outputs. One of them is for the stores itself. It's a simple dashboard. This is even like the simpler version of what they are using right now. But every morning, the shop owner enters the shop, opens the computer, opens their computer, and looks at this report to see all the reviews of yesterday, for instance. And then they can see, it's a bit small, I think, but then they can see, based on service, we scored well, for product, we scored less, for price, whatever. And they can also add some other filters, or they can benchmark it next to other shops, etc., etc. This report also exists for the management, so they can look on a higher level, but these are mere details. They also have the possibility to go to the exact comment itself, but I must say here, every review is anonymized, for sure, GDPR. And also all the hatred that people send in reviews is also filtered out, because otherwise the shop owners, they don't start their day really nice. A funny thing about that, checking the time, a funny thing about that, little anecdote, we set some guardrails to filter out hatred text, and one review that came in that we checked as a quality control was, my 4-year-old son really liked the playground in the shop, because there's like a playground to entertain your kids. And it was filtered out because it was a pedophile mention, which was not, but of course the guardrails were a little bit too tight, so sometimes it also filters out too much. And the second output of this solution is a big management report. I'm saying big, but actually it's just 2 pages. And it's a summary stating which are the top 3 actions that you could take, and some insights on the feedback that was received. And in that way, you have your report as if they had the report from the mystery shopper, but now it's based on multiple data points, and it's a more objective manner of looking at the feedback. As a result, as mentioned, there are multiple data points. Every day there were new data points coming in, so it was not just twice a year from a mystery shopper. There's also a cost reduction, because a mystery shopper, it costs like 10K a year approximately, and now it's reduced to 20 euros a month, so quite a cost reduction. And also the trust level went up, because the stores, they looked at it every day, so they really adapted quite quickly, so the customer centricity point was really improving. And they actually trusted their data, because they could really see, based on the reviews, which are, by the way, mostly positive, they could see, indeed, I remember this guy, how nice of him to leave that review, etc. So in that way, it adopted quite well. I will end this story with a little anecdote to show you that they really took action. There's like a trend within the shoe retail world, or just in the feet of the people, they are growing in general. So if they are optimizing their stock, they always give out more bigger sizes of shoes to the shops, because they just get sold much more. But without out of that feedback they received, there were like 2 stores in Limburg. And then there was also always a mention of the small sizes are out of stock. They're always if I'm coming to this shop, my size is not there. I'm looking for a 36, etc., etc. So the management was like, okay, we really take this feedback as a genuine feedback. They went to the store and they asked, how is it possible that here the only 2 shops in the whole of Belgium only have less of the small sizes? And they said like, but we're in the middle of the Italian community and their feet are just smaller than the typical Belgian feet. So that's why they switched around their stock distribution, and for these 2 shops they are giving out more smaller sizes, which again, make sure that the customer is happier than before. So it really works. This was my story, but I'm going a little bit meta here. I'm going the story behind the story, because here it seems like a really simple case, and it was a really simple case, but there's something you have to take into account. There was already a data evolution going to the company. The company itself, it's really data-centric. Before, at first, they started off like most companies do. They'd make decisions based on gut feeling. They have one Excel master who gives all the data, and they're basing their decisions based on the Excel or on gut feeling. But then, at one point in time, they started handing out loyalty cards, like every shop does. So the data exploded. There were a lot of new data points about their customer. They switched their strategy and said, okay, we want to be customer-centric. We want to focus on our customer, and we can do that because we have the data right now, which was completely true. But yeah, there was not only data about their customer. All of a sudden, they had data about the website traffic, online sales, sales in the shop, etc., etc. So massive amount of data. They needed something else. They needed a data platform. They needed to integrate their data to make proper decisions, and to make sure that the decisions they took was based on qualitative data. So that's why they built like a big foundation, that data platform, integrating everything with everything. And because of that foundation, each AI case or other data case that entered was easy to just build on top of it. Like a building block, like you're building a Lego house and you build a massive foundation, and then you can just keep on adding some blocks. And that's my message here. You don't want to go with standalone cases. You want to add building blocks within your platform. And that's why, as my key takeaways, when you start to AI, my message is don't start with AI, start with why. You first have to name your pain. You have to find something that's causing you pain, something that is a lot of manual work, that is causing bottlenecks, inefficiencies, whatever. But you first have to have your issue, and then you can start thinking about the solution. Probably AI can help, but maybe something really simple can also already improve a lot. Next to that, you also want to go for something that brings value. I've seen many companies that have like 20 AI tools because someone handed out the MasterCard and they went like, great, that seems like a tool I really want to use, and then they buy it, and then 6 months later it's like, yeah, why am I paying this again? And for what am I using this? So they end up with a lot of standalone tools that don't bring any value. So you want to measure the adoption, that for sure, but you also want to make sure that it's integrated and solving a problem. It's integrated within your company, within your processes, and solving an actual problem, and not just generating more problems and more chaos. And this one, you would say it's a Flemish saying, but I looked it up. In English it also exists. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's not because it's AI and it's fast and it's simple and it's easy and it's use case after use case that all of the basic principles of both software development as data development, you just have to throw it out. All the principles about DevOps, MLOps, everything about environments, having a testing environment, a production environment, version control, quality checks, you also need this with AI implementations. It's not because it's fast and it's easy that you don't need it anymore. You need to make sure that there's ownership, that there's security, access control. You have to think about privacy. You have to see, where did this AI agent get that data? Did it really get it from my systems? Is it really the data that I requested? There are many things to consider besides just building a fast AI application. And lastly, but most importantly, you have to design every solution for humans, because you want to solve a human problem and you want that these humans actually use your tool and trust your tool. So keep the human in the loop, really important one. And also to get more adoption, add training and make sure that adoption is measured, because if a solution is just implemented and never used, it's just sad for the ones building the solution. So this was a my talk. If you have any questions, you can ask them now, but you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. If you want to have the presentation afterwards, just send me a message, I will send it to you. I also wrote a white paper about it. If you want the white paper, again, send me a message, I will give it to you. And otherwise, nice to meet you, and thank you. Yeah, it's okay.
So if you have any question, you can scan here the QR code so I can ask you the question. Thank you for the conference, first of all.
Thank you for having me. It was the best since the morning. Thank you.
So you can scan the QR code and directly ask it on the desk.
But perhaps it was this clear that no one has questions.
There are some questions, but it takes some time today.
It's okay.
Are you using Odoo on your company?
Actually, I'm not. Not because I don't like it, but rather because yeah, we are just using our own tools at the moment. So not using Odoo right now. We integrate Odoo. I mean, with that, we use the data from Odoo and integrate it with other sources that pour data. But using Odoo as an application, not yet, perhaps.
Not yet. Was there a way to calculate ROI of the project?
Yeah, in this case, it was quite simple to have like a basic metric because they really compared it to the mystery shopper costs. So it was like 10K a year for the mystery shopper to pay them. And now the OPEX cost is just 20 euros a month. So as ROE, it was quite easily calculated to have like a vision on that ROE.
Okay. And AI research can be costly, and customers not sure what would be business results.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there something that I can make it clearer? Or
So the question is, AI can be costly. How do you see if there's business result?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's important that from the start of any AI project, it's like any other project, you clearly define what is your problem and how you are planning to solve it, and give like an estimate of what should be in scope, what should be out of scope, and how much will it cost. And indeed, it's like the same question we had with going to the cloud. Everyone always says, the cloud is super expensive. It's true if you just go all the way, build chaos, and don't think about proper definitions and put everything right. And the same thing applies to AI. If you don't think about it properly, if you don't think about it properly in advance, it can really spiral out of proportion for sure. So the main advice I can give is think about it properly and make sure that it's clearly defined what you are looking for and what you are trying to solve.
With your tool, a company is reliant on written feedback. As you mentioned, most of those are positive. How can a company push clients to send in honest reviews?
How can they push clients to... I think, by perhaps the message that was sent out in the email, that this could perhaps help them to send honest reviews. And besides that, just to be clear, it's not a custom tool we have built. It's really just using a large language model, integrating it inside their data platform and making sure that this data is clean. So it's not like a custom tool, it's an implementation of concepts that we did. So it's not like another standalone tool, absolutely not.
Thank you very much.
Great.
I think that I don't have any other questions.
Perfect.
But thank you very much for this conference.
Thank you.